JP's a production.
So good, S to the K. It's Awalani everywhere, everywhere in every city. Making money every day, load the bed and load the teeth. Check on, 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 shoot on. Awalani everywhere, everywhere in every city. Making money every day, load the bed and load the teeth. Check on, 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 shoot on. Let go, bend down, all my ladies bend down. Anytime where I touch down, I they guarantee to shut the club down. Hey, Baba, them they call me Baba. Them be one make I run down. Now all of my haters bow down. Murderer, murderer, they be calling me murderer. No other, no other. Then they obey my order. Murderer, murderer, they be calling me murderer. No other, no other. Then they obey my order. Awalani everywhere, everywhere in every city. Making money every day, load the bed and load the teeth. Check on, 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 shoot on. Awalani everywhere, everywhere in every city. Making money every day, load the bed and load the teeth. Check on, 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 shoot on. Ha! No more made in China, everything designer. All my girls are finer. Anything where I talk is finer. Hey. Right now, I mean they run things right now. I private jet and they fly now. When they see me, they come to the hide now. Murderer, murderer, they be calling me murderer. No other, no other. Then they obey my order. Murderer, murderer, they be calling me murderer. No other, no other. Then they obey my order. Awalani everywhere, everywhere in every city. Making money every day, load the bed and load the teeth. Check on, 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 shoot on. Awalani everywhere, everywhere in every city. Making money every day, load the bed and load the teeth. Check on, 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 shoot on. Hey, hey, hey.
JP's a production.
Check on. Shoot on. Let go.
Hi, my name is Rabbi Howard Vol Saltman, and I'm the senior rabbi of Temple Beth El here in Providence. Rabbi Mack, my associate rabbi, and I are here to support a safe and a welcoming presence for Syrian refugees. We care deeply about peace in the Middle East, and we are promoting ways in which peace can come to the Middle East. And one of the ways we feel is most important is for a peaceful resolution of the Syrian civil war that's been impacting the Arab world and, of course, Israel for the last at least 4 years. We pray that other nations that are assisting Syrian refugees who want a place to be safe, to find peace, we pray that the people that gather together here are going to be promoting that vision of a safer and healthier relationship between Arabs and Jews in the Middle East, but also a safer relationship for immigrants to the United States.
All those who are attending and all those who are speaking. I also want to recognize the other elected officials who are here. Rabbi Jello, Aaron Rickenberg, Treasurer Magaziner, former Senator Wilson is also here. Good afternoon and welcome to the State House. I want to thank all of you for coming this afternoon for a strong demonstration of solidarity. Standing together, we are sending a message. We will not abandon our American ideals because of fear. We will not ignore our global responsibility to assist in this humanitarian crisis, and we will not shun our American principles as a land where the oppressed find refuge. We will not be guided by irrational fear or worse, bigotry. We are pleased to be joined today by a diverse group of leaders who will help us to understand the rigorous process to which refugees are subject to. We have many refugees among us here today, and we'll hear some of their stories. The responsibility that our faith leaders recognize to assist in this humanitarian effort, and what this new start means to a refugee from his perspective. It is natural to be afraid after the horror committed in Paris and elsewhere last week. Our national security must be paramount. That is why the United States subjects refugees to the most rigorous screening process of any category of traveler, including a security vetting by the National Counterterrorism Center, the FBI's Terror Screening Center, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, and the Department of Defense. No refugee is admitted until they undergo an extremely stringent security regime. We also must remind ourselves that refugees seeking assistance here and across the world are desperately fleeing the people who commit these very types of atrocities. This great nation and home of the brave can both protect our national security and welcome refugees fleeing violence. The faces that make up our nation would be very different today if the U.S. did welcome the oppressed. There aren't many of us here today who can't trace our family's arrival in this nation to the quest for a better life. The earliest colonists came here seeking freedom from religious oppression. Whether fleeing a war on poverty, the United States, war or poverty, the United States has stood as a beacon of opportunity to the world. We are brave people, and we will not be shaken to the point where we abandon these ideals along with those in need of assistance.
Senator Golden pointed out the shameful history in 1939 when 2/3 of Americans polled said that the United States should not accept Jewish refugees. At that moment, the ship on which those refugees were riding, the St. Louis, was returned to Europe. The end was not a happy one. Many of its passengers, most of whom were children, were murdered by the Nazis. That stain on our conscience risks being repeated. Let me share with you the words of a rabbi in New York City in December of 1938, begging, pleading to save lives. He said, "Judaism has nothing in common with communism. Jews are not communists." To counter claims that Jewish refugees at that time would be a security threat. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Memory in our hearts that we stand today beside our Muslim brothers and sisters. Our collective history of oppression impels us to aid those desperate Syrian souls seeking sanctuary. The Torah commands us, not once, not twice, but 36 times, to care for the stranger. We know the heart of the stranger because we have been there. Part of that injunction means raising our voices against the hatred and xenophobia and fear-mongering that is disguised in the words security threat. And so today we stand against that baseless hatred. We raise our voices against the shameful side of humanity that elevates fear of those who are different over helping the vulnerable. We raise our voices because we risk repeating one of our ugliest human mistakes. Each morning, Jews around the world pray these words: "Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, Zokef Kefufim, who lifts up the fallen. As God's partners in repairing the world, we have an obligation to assist in the work of lifting up those in most need, in aiding refugees who are in search of safety and a new life. As we stand together today, united across a myriad of faith traditions, it is clear that Rhode Islanders are imbued with the empathy and compassion to undertake this holy task together.
Thank Senators Golden and Holland for this initiative that they've done here. And we are grateful, most of all, to God for this opportunity, for blessing us to be here and to express to you the words that I think would be appropriate for this occasion. First, let me state unequivocally, oftentimes when I'm asked, why is it not that Muslims do not speak out against terrorism? Let me say here today, unequivocally, without hesitation or reservation, that we most absolutely condemn all acts of terror. It is un-Islamic, it is un-American, it is not something that we ascribe to. In the 107th chapter of the Holy Quran, our holy book, entitled Surah Al-Ma'un, which translates and means neighborly assistance, neighborly needs. And it speaks of the moral and spiritual responsibility for all nations and actions done by men. The U.S. Constitution and the Article 1 of the Constitution of the United States, of Rhode Island, has set forth the guiding principles, which has been the moral compass for our nation for generations. Freedom of religion in the First Amendment of the Constitution, also the State of Rhode Island, which has a history founded upon these principles. We cannot abandon our principles because of today's challenges. It is time to stand for what is right and forbid what is wrong. We must always remain vigilant, of course, against the evils of today and guard our borders against all forms of terrorism and evil. However, we cannot be hypocritical to our values long established by our founding fathers. The refugees are fleeing for their lives from the same terror that we are fighting against. The refugees want liberty. The refugees want happiness. And it makes me think of the words, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is part of the American way. They are crying out to America, the place of refuge that boasts of these truths. Can we deny the favors which God, our Creator, has blessed us, our country with, and our state with? To deny it is to make it a lie. Let us unite as a community and demonstrate that Rhode Island, symbolized as the independent man which stands above us in the State House rotunda, shall not yield to fear and terror and abandon its principles in this day of moral and spiritual crisis. Let our borders remain open to freedom, to justice, and equality. Thank you.
Thank you.